Hi, y'all. I'm Allison. Today's the big day. We get to send an answer to Nasilla and let her know what her career should be. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I am referring to the Magical Readathon by G over at Book Roast. I am joining for the first time, and we've been creating my character, getting her to school, and we finally reached the point where I'm going to pick out my TBR. If you're not up to speed on what I'm talking about, then I will have a playlist up here in the corner, and it'll also be at the very end, so you can get caught up. Everything has been done randomly. I have had no control in anything, which brings us to today, because I narrowed down the list. We had 4 options, and y'all voted. And I am thrilled. I was afraid that, nobody would vote, or only maybe 1 or 2 of you, but 51 people voted. So thank you so much. That was so exciting. And it feels like the clock just slowed down to a crawl. I've been dying to know what it would be. And we finally have our answer. So I'm going to put a graph right here. Master of Elements won with 35%. I was shocked at this, y'all, because at the very beginning, Star Whisperer and Mood Warden were like neck and neck. Master of Elements had maybe 1 more vote than Rift Architect. Rift Architect never really took off, but Moon Warden and Star Whisperer were just going back and forth, and then all of a sudden, everybody who wanted Master of Elements came out of the woodwork, and that number just shot up. And then the Star Whisperer was gaining on it, and it would fall back. And so it was quite the close race. As you can see, 35% to 31%. And I'm thrilled. Honestly, I think out of the list, Master of Elements was the one that was kind of speaking to me personally. So that worked out beautifully. Speaking of working out beautifully, I lucked out in my desire not to spoil anything. I was only reading bits and pieces of information just to pull what I thought I needed. I failed to notice at the bottom of that document, it says that this is exclusive to the Order of the Crescent Guild. Luckily, that's our guild. Otherwise, that could have been a nightmare. All right, so we can advise Nosilla on her career. We have a definite answer for her. I'm going to be sending that to her tonight by Crow, because that is the only way to get messages to her. All right, so I heard from Nosilla. Now, the school is providing her textbooks, so we dodged a bullet there. We don't have to worry about that. All of the core curriculum information is being provided. They had extra copies on hand at school. So that's at least gone smoothly. But each class also has additional reading that they do on the side, that the teachers feel it's important to get a wider view of their topics. So she sent me a list of books that were approved by each teacher. That would be a possibility. Now, since we're so late to the game, not all of these books are going to be available. I mean, the school's on a floating mountain. It's going to be difficult to get things to them, but we're going to make it happen for her. And to do that, we're going to have to play a little game. So what I've done is I've come up with 3 books for each prompt, but we're only going to do 1 out of 3. And to do that, first, we're going to start by pulling a piece of paper, and then we're going to have to go to the wheel, and that will tell us what our final book would be that Melissa will be able to get a hold of at school. Because conveniently, all of the ones that make it on this list, they're magically going to be down in the library for her to borrow. So, worked out good. All right, so let's get started and actually play this little game. For our first class, Elemental Studies, we need flowers on the covers. The teacher loves flowers, and she wants to see them when she looks around. So, let's find out what our first qualification would be, requirement. I don't know quite what to call it, but here we go. Oh, let me show you the stack of books first. Our options are Desires of the Dead, which continues the series. 10,000 Doors of January, which I've had forever and haven't read. And the next one in Miss Marple, which is 450 from Paddington. And they all have flowers. So let's see how we're going to get this list down to one book. We'll be looking at the title length. They're going to be ranked from shortest to longest. Okay, here is our order. 415 from Paddington, Desires of the Dead, and then 10,000 Doors of January. So now let's go to the wheel and find out which one we're actually going to pick. Okay, one thing you'll notice about the wheel, there are only 3 different options on here. They're just repeated to make sure it doesn't keep landing on the same spot because of timing. It'll either be first, newest, or shortest. Think of that as like option 1. Then we've got middle, which is the second option. And then it would be last, oldest, and longest. So does that make sense? Shortest to longest. So it's either going to be the shortest title, the middle title, or the longest. Okay, so let's spin and find out which one we want. Okay, it is the middle book. Let me find my stack. Okay, so middle title length is Desires of the Dead. This is our first book. She'll be reading this for Elemental Studies. And this is part 2 in the Body Finder series. It's a YA fantasy. She has the ability to sense when there's a dead body nearby. She's got a psychic ability. And the first one was really good. The first one was, I can't recall off the top of my head. I'll put the picture right here. So great series if anybody's looking for one. Okay, there's our first one. Let's move on to our next class. Shape-shifting. For this, we need a wolf on the cover, title, or the author's name. Our contenders are Little Red Riding Hood. We've got a roof right there, a wolf right there. This Poison Season, there's a wolf. And the last one is Wolf Pact, which is on my Nook. It's one book broken down into 4 parts. So if I get this one, I would read all 4 parts. All right, so let's get our box and find out what method we're using this time. I hope this makes sense now that you've seen it. I wasn't quite sure what to call this. Allison goes overboard once again. Okay, so we're going to do this one. And this time we are looking at a publishing date. So oldest would be the first to a most recent. So recent would be the last. And of course, middle is middle. So let's spin our wheel again and see what we get. I have to get my Nook to look this up. First. Okay, so that means the oldest, whichever was published first. Let me look it up because I don't have the dates. This Poison Season, I know this was new, but just to be thorough, 2022. Wolf Pact, which I added up the page count, is 157 pages. That would be nice. That one came out 2012. And Red Riding Hood, 2011. So I will be reading Red Riding Hood. This is the movie with Amanda Seyfried. I always forget how to pronounce her name. Remember watching somebody's TBR game? And this came up and they were really disappointed in it. So we'll see. Either way, I'm glad it's on my list because if it's not any good, I want it off the shelf because I need the space. Okay, on to Animal Studies. This one, I have to flip a coin. Okay, you would think I would be prepared. I'm not. I have a feeling this is going to end badly. I got a nickel. Heads is nonfiction, and tails is fiction. So let's see if I can do this without losing it. Lily's looking at it. Okay, this is exactly how I picked it up. So what do we get? Tails. And I forget what that means. Actually, should I try again to see if we can... That was kind of lame. But I still got tails. So I got tails again. Or we're going with it. So this was Animal Studies. We get to pick fiction. I've got Hexed, which is this one right here. I just recommended it to Phoenix Rose, I believe, and Just Spin It. This is part 2 in the Iron Druid Chronicles. And I went with this one because of Oberon, the Irish Wolfhound, the dog. So animal studies. I figured animals needed to be prominent in these. Our other contender is, I have no idea how to say this, Perestroika in Paris. This I got from a Wordy Traveler box. I haven't read it. I know it's from the perspective of the animals. And our other one is Hex Hall. She's got a black cat. I would assume this is so familiar. This is like a boarding school YA witches. So let's see what our requirement is this time. Okay, this one is page count, lowest to highest. Okay, I need to look up what the page count is for Hexed. I don't know it because it's on my Nook. Okay, let's see. Longest, middle, or shortest. Of course, we have to do the longest book. Hexed was 260 pages. Hex Hall, I didn't even notice that, 323. And whatever this is in Paris, 265. Okay, so our longest book is Hex Hall. So that will be for animal studies. And we've got a little black cat. And this seems very appropriate. You know, she's going to a boarding school for magical studies. And so will our main character be in this one. Okay, moving right along. Our next one is astronomy, and we need 2 E's in the title. Now, on this one, I probably made it more difficult. Surprise. I wasn't sure if it meant at least 2, but I went specifically just 2. So, let me grab our short stack. Okay, our contenders this time, we have, I don't know why I did it that way, Hotel Magnifique. We've got an E in hotel and 1 in Magnifique. When Night Breaks with an E in when and 1 in breaks. And our last one is Leviathan Awakes. I love the TV show. So 1 in Leviathan and 1 in Wakes. Bright pink edges. So let's see what our criteria is for this one. We're going to go with this paper. It's kind of fun doing it this way. A to Z. So this time we're going alphabetical. And, oh, okay, cool. I was going to say A and the don't count, but none of those have that in the title anyway, so it doesn't matter. A would be first, Z would be last. Let's go spin. Have we got it? I think we did get 1 middle, didn't we? First. Okay, so closest to the letter A. And that would be Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. Okay, so I got this in an Owl Crate box, and if I remember correctly, the hotel is magical and it moves at midnight. Okay, our next class is Conjuration, and this is recommended by a friend. So I am going with, continuing on with Lockwood & Co. This was recommended by Leanne on Literary Diversions. I would like to think she's my friend, but, you know, we've never spoken or anything. But that's okay. I have been reading this on her recommendation, and I love this series, and I want to continue. Then I have 4 Aunties and a Wedding. This one has been waiting for me to buddy read it with Molly, and I would call that as a recommendation since she sent me a buddy read request for it. And I'm going to say the same thing for A Secret Princess with Phoenix Rose. They already read it in March, and the buddy read comments are waiting for me on Storygraph, so I would call that recommended. So let's see what our criteria is going to be for this one. I made extra, so I don't know what's going to... So I'm not like just waiting for one to pop up. Okay, a stack order. Okay, so here's our order. First, middle, last. So whatever the wheel says. The middle book. I gotta let Lily in. Okay. Does anybody else's dog do this? When she wants to come in, she sits in the middle of the yard and barks out at the fence instead of at the door. Okay, yeah, Lily's here. Let me see it, girl. Thank you. I'll give it back when we're done. Okay, so middle for Aunties and a Wedding. So this, I think, has been I've pushed it from TBR to TBR since August of last year, so I'm going to make it happen in April. I really want to get to it. It just has never worked out. I mean, Nasilla will be reading it at school. Yeah. Okay, we've got one more class, Restoration. This one is going to be a little bit more complicated, but I think I've worked out a way to do this. I've made up these little numbered river rocks. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I actually made these for something else, but I think it'll work perfect for today. I dropped them in one of the little bags from Once Upon a Book Club. And I'm going to give these a shake. And what we're going to do, these are going to point to an area. I'm going to really, hold on, you're going for a ride. Okay, this feels really weird. This will be section 1. That shelf will be section 2. I'm on the floor, so she says it's fair game. And over in the corner up against the wall, and these on the floor will be section 3. So what I'm going to do, is find out what section we'll be going with. So this is my version of closing my eyes and pointing, because that's what you're supposed to do for this prompt. So we're going to take it from section 1, which I hope I said this section. Now, if the box is turned backwards, that means I'm currently reading it. So that's the box for the storyteller, I believe. So I'm going to pick 3 boxes. I have no clue what's in them. So this is definitely the same as closing your eyes, shuffling it around, and just pointing. So I'm just going to grab. And let's take this one. Oh, that one's heavy. Here is our stack. I have no clue what's in them. Green is YA and pink is regular. Okay, so let's find out what our requirement is going to be. I did make extras, so I wouldn't know what was coming up. Okay, we ready? So I wouldn't know. Acquire date. So oldest to newest. So that'll be easy since these are Once Upon a Book Club. It has a date in a month. So let's spin and find out which one we're going to be doing. Okay, and we get middle. All right, so whatever the middle one was, let me look it up. Actually, it would help if we knew what was in there. Just jumping the gun. All right, we've got the Charmed list, which is a YA contemporary romance, I believe. The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I know I've had this one for a while. And that was an adult. And then we've got the other YA, Salt and Sugar. I don't know if this is a cozy love story. Okay, so let me find out when I got these, and then we'll know. And I have it in my reading journal. I actually have a page dedicated to when these came out. Because as you saw, I'm overrun by them. I did cancel my subscriptions. I've got one more coming in, and then that's it. I got the Book of Cold Cases in April of 2022. The Charmed list in July of 2022. And then I got Salt and Sugar of December. So it looks like Cold Cases, just double checking, April, July, December. Oh, we need the middle book. That's why I have to double check. Okay, so we're going with this little bitty short one. The Charmed list. It's a best friends to enemies to lovers story. First love, fun-filled and swoony road trip romance with a magical twist. Sounds like a good time to me. And look. Plus, it'll have presents. All right, here is Nasilla's additional reading for her classes for the spring semester. Now, you would think that we would be done with this and she'd just be off doing her own thing at school and, we'd check in maybe later. But we have a whole nother layer of mess to figure out because, as you know, she was late getting to school and they did accommodate her, let her enroll anyway, but classes, finding her time slots is going to be a little bit tricky. So we're going to have another video about that because we're actually going to try to read these following a schedule. I've lost my mind. So hopefully if all goes well, I will put that together and have that video for y'all in just a couple of days, which should be Saturday. If not, it will come very, very soon after. All right, I hope you enjoyed this and good luck to everybody who is doing Magical Readathon. I am excited about this stack of books. I wasn't sure what I would get and I was afraid I was going to get some really hefty ones, and I think it's actually manageable. And I also will be back with the other ones that I'm reading because I still have my standard extra challenges that I do. So I think I'm going to end up with 16, 17, 18, something like that books. And I haven't started. Today is April the 5th. So yay. All right. I hope to see you in just a couple of days and y'all have a great one. Thank you again for those of y'all who voted. Bye now.